Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhne.
Howdy everyone, I've got a super exciting guest with us today, a real content creator guru. We've got Brandon Copple, Director of Content Marketing at Descript, and it's a platform that is constantly evolving and growing, has some fantastic, hilarious ad campaigns and ways that they engage with their customers and potential customers. So I wanted to reach out to them and see, okay, this is a product I'm using. They've got my money. So let's talk to the folks in the levers of power and see how are they building this brand and how are they keeping me, for example, as a customer, and I'm a tough cookie. How are you growing communities? How is AI impacting on your business? Because you're bringing in new services and offerings the whole time. You're integrating new brands into your business. So we've got a lot to talk about. So Brandon, welcome.
Thanks, Nicholas. It's great to be here.
Now you've just launched or come out with season 6 of Descript. Can you maybe just talk about how season 6 is different to the previous seasons that you've had?
Sure. So for anybody who's not familiar, seasons are our quarterly-ish product updates where we talk about a lot of things that we've released in the previous months and usually roll out a few big new things. It's also sort of an announcement moment. And this year at season 6, we not only introduced a bunch of new features, but an entirely new suite of AI features called Underlord and a redesign of the app. So we redesigned the app around Underlord to make it easier to use and more intuitive based on a year and a half worth of user feedback and on everything we had come to understand about how we think AI can and should be integrated into the creative process.
Name Underlord, because I think this comes to the center of where I think the value or the differentiator for Descript is. The name Underlord, maybe give us a little bit of background on that and who the hell signed that off?
That's the most amazing part, right? That we actually did it, I think. So for a long time now, since AI sort of fell on all of our laps a year plus ago, year and a half now, really, we've been having a lot of intensive discussions, like I said, about where AI fits into the creative process and where the lines between human creativity and AI's sort of generative capabilities should be drawn. And we've come to believe very strongly that AI is an invaluable tool in making creative work more efficient and helping you get through the tedious parts and the processes involved in creative work, especially with video and audio, which have many processes and sort of technically tedious elements. And we've also come to believe that AI can't and should not create content. It doesn't have ideas. It doesn't have originality. It doesn't have any form of creative sensibility. It doesn't have any of the things you need. And even as it gets better, right now it's not capable of creating any good. But someday it might be. And even if it does, we don't want it to. And we do want it to help us with all those tedious tasks. So in other words, we don't want an AI robot overlord, but we'd love to have an AI underlord to do all the dirty work for us, to free us up to create, to focus on our ideas and the parts of our content that are original and hopefully, fresh and that allow us to express our ideas.
When it comes to authenticity, and you bring up a fantastic point there, it's so easy to use AI to create junk now, or just to automate, because everything's about getting just volume out there. And I think one of the issues is that we've got YouTube, we've got Spotify,
Hmm.
we've got Apple, and the algorithm punishing us if we don't, smaller producers, if we're not churning out content,
Right.
they are punishing us. So it means that we have to churn out sometimes substandard, not well, slop, as you mentioned it. And people are, I'm sure, getting tired of that, because I stopped
Yeah.
listening to anything on YouTube that is an AI voice. As soon as
Right.
I hear, and today he went next, and we've got bullshit detectors that can just, oh, that's a YouTube video. I mean,
Right.
that's a AI generated video. That's an AI generated voice, and people are going to have enough of it. So I think what you're talking about there, not trying to make Descript an AI platform where everything's going to be AI, but allowing the creative process to flow, is definitely going to be useful for the
Absolutely.
future.
Yeah. We don't want to live in a world that's full of AI created slop. The content universe is already populated with enough junk. And you're right. We already live in a world where the publishing platforms drive us to create more and more and reward creative work at scale to the point where it really isn't creative work anymore. AI really just puts a brick on the accelerator into that world. And we're really trying to draw a line there and ensure that the real creative work, the real value in ideas and expression is protected and that it's made easier and more efficient. We want to help move towards a world where you can express your ideas and deliver information faster, but do it in a very human way.
So I think everyone can gab on about AI for ages and ages. What I
Mhm.
want to talk about a little bit now is the community management and content creation that you do. I'm going to give an example of myself. Nearly left Descript every month. And every month there's a new thing coming in, because there's shiny objects on the hill
Yeah.
coming out every month. And one of the things that keeps me coming back to Descript or staying with you guys is, obviously, you added on Squadcast, which is the equivalent of Riverside. You've also got
Hmm.
new updates like Underlord, and you listen to customer feedback. So, and one of the things that still needs to be worked on is the YouTube upload function, but I won't punish you in this call.
I'll pass that along.
But whenever I have made suggestions, they have, I think, gone on the Kanban board in terms of, okay,
Hmm.
let's perhaps look at this.
They should.
How are you managing the huge amount of changes in new product development that's happening in all of these other platforms? How are you selecting which ones you're going to push out to the market that you think are going to maintain interest and keep customers on board?
This is outside of my purview and my expertise, but I can sort of give you, the answer. We get that question a lot, or in similar, variations on it. And what I've heard our product lead, Laura Burkhauser, and our CEO, Andrew Mason, say is that it's a tricky balance every month. We're trying to, we have a product that constantly is evolving and also constantly needs to be improved, like anything. And so we now are in a world, again, coming back to this AI thing, where the need to evolve and keep up is even greater than it was before. When I joined Descript 3 years ago, it felt like we had a pretty strong moat with just editing audio and video by editing text. And that technology has spread around. At the same time, new AI tools are popping up every direction. And so there's a balance that we're trying to strike. It's something that we're always trying to fine tune and sort of just get dialed in just right, where we are adding new features because our users do ask for a lot of new stuff. Our team sees a lot of new capabilities that we could be adding, things our users aren't even aware of, tools that they haven't asked for that will change the way they work, as editing text was. It's a constant balance that we're trying to strike between working on performance and improvement of what we already have and adding new functionality to the product. It's a tough thing to get right.
Well, let's go back to your role, which is Director of Content Marketing.
Yeah.
How many platforms are you engaged in, or do you manage on, not you personally, but does your team manage? I mean, one or two, or have you got a preponderance?
Oh, yeah, more than that. We've got the community platforms, so Discord, and then all the social media stuff. And then on the content side, we've got YouTube, and then our properties, our blog, where we publish a lot of really great sort of creator education and insight on craft and community. A lot of content about the community, just profiles of creators and podcasters who are out there, how they're working and how they've achieved the things they've achieved. And then we've got our help center. That's my team works there on how-to guides and in getting started, customer education content. And we make a lot of video as well for both YouTube and our own app that lives inside the app for customer education. And then there's the email surfaces, of which there are several. Our newsletter, which goes out every other week, being the primary non-transactional email, plus all the transactional emails that a company sends out. So all of that falls under my team.
That's obviously quite a lot of work. And in terms of you, let's go back to you being funded by a whole bunch of VC companies. There's a lot of pressure on you to drive sales, obviously, and maintain a high presence in social media and in news media. Does traditional PR fit into your wheelhouse at all? Is it still relevant for this kind of industry?
The first question I can answer very succinctly. The second question is a really interesting one and one that we're grappling with. I come from the journalism world, and I've worked at a PR agency before. We do not have a PR function. We've engaged agencies, very competent and talented people at those agencies, and just not seen a lot of traction. I don't know how much of that is just the stage that we're at as a company, where we're not generating a lot of news. We're not big enough to have news that's relevant to investors or anyone outside of a fairly small sector of consumers and B2B folks. So at what point does traditional PR become important is a question that we're wrestling with right now. And I think our CMO, Whitney Steele, will be making that decision in the next year or two. At what point do we need to proactively engage with the media? But I will say that it's kind of nice to be, Descript has been around for a while now. It's been around for 6 or 7 years. And so we have a fairly mature sort of startup that's still in its growth stages for sure. We have a CEO who had a very high media profile before he started the company, because he had started another company that was very successful there for a bit. So we do get media attention, but we don't really seek it.
Well, one of the reasons I asked is I'm sure you watched, perhaps you watched the Canva relaunch, or their equivalent of your season 6, which is obviously very beautifully done, but awful in terms of scripting and so on. And I felt, since your season 6 came out just after that, and it was the absolute opposite in terms of just the humor and the production. I mean, it was hilarious. And there's a Monty Python and a Goon show and a South Park fan. It just totally, I'm in love with you guys now. And it should have been there should have been a video out of the contrast between the two. So there might still be.
If do you want to make one, we certainly won't stop you.
That goes into my next question of UGC. And obviously, PR is relatively old-fashioned, and perhaps for certain industries is useful. But I was just doing my research, and I saw a lot of UGC in terms of people saying, this is how you can use Descript. How are you supporting those communities? Are you getting much traction from the UGC side, or is it more of a pain in the backside?
So we have an affiliate program, like most companies nowadays. that has been a really nice driver of our growth over the last few years. And our affiliates, it's fairly easy to sign up for. And, it works like most affiliate programs. They get a percentage of any revenue that they create for us by just posting a link in their content. So we work with them, but we don't tell them what to say. We're fairly hands off. So it's like a scalable thing. Beyond that, we haven't done as much with UGC as I think we all feel we should. One of those things that's just, you have so many resources and you got to choose where you put them. So, but we are certainly always blown away by the stuff we see out there from our affiliates and even sometimes from those who aren't. I mean, there is a certain amount of outreach to folks making content about Descript who aren't affiliates to say, hey, did you know you could be making money off of this? So it's a really nice way to both build community and grow the business.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more. I mean, UGC is nothing new, but there's with the affiliate side, that's how a lot of podcasters and these online folks make money, because they're not making it from their 1 million views on TikTok and that, which literally don't generate anything. So I will. Sorry, my question just went right out of my head here.
You just edit this out.
Yeah, no, that's. I'm using the new Underlord, which says.
There you go.
Well, I love it. Sorry. That's such a great point, and I was just trying to keep the flow. Well, we'll go back into the content creation side. So, Brandon, you are content marketing, and let's just go into sort of a day in the life of Brandon and a content calendar planning session. We've mentioned that you've got quite a few different platforms. Are you using tools like Canva, your own Descript, ChatGPT? So your marketing department can't manage everything. How are you creating and managing your content?
Like I said, there's a lot of platforms, so we're creating content across a lot of different media, video, and we produce a lot of copy and design, of course, visual assets. So we're using all those tools. We use tools like Figma for design, and we use Descript for video editing and recording. We use Notion is sort of like where we keep all our documents. And then we have a bunch of different tools we use for email and blogs, all those things that you would expect. I will say in terms of AI, the video team is heavy users of the AI tools in Descript for sure, and getting lots of efficiencies there, including things like our AI voices, which enable us to fix stuff when the product changes without re-recording. One of the things, in fact, we need to do better is show our own work and how we use our tool in our work. But anyway, on the writing side, our managing editor, Ashley Hamer, and I have talked about this a lot. I don't use ChatGPT for writing. I use it for some research. I'll use it as essentially a better and faster version of Google. And, I still have to fact check it because for reasons we all know. But I find that on the writing side, there are no real technical processes that I have to go through to produce a piece of writing. To me, a keyboard and a computer screen. So AI can't really disintermediate any of those things yet. I can envision a day where I could do all that just by talking. I think that day is coming very soon. It's interesting. And I'm old, so I may not be the earliest or most enthusiastic adopter of any of this stuff, but I don't find any use for AI and writing beyond just the research side of it. And I think Ashley has as well. If you're an experienced writer, done a lot of that in your career, as we both have, I think we've both found that ChatGPT can produce a reasonably crappy first draft, like the way you do as a writer. I've produced 1 million crappy first drafts. But what I've discovered is it's not really helpful to me to have AI do that, because writing, the act of creating the first draft, is actually how I sort of see what the second draft needs to be. Just having it presented to me is not helpful. I need to go through that process of creating it myself and working through ideas and processing them one way to see what's the best way. So we're using AI in lots of different ways, and a lot of the different ways that everybody's using it in work. But in terms of our creative work, primarily just in video.
I agree with that writing side. I've attempted quite a few times to shortcut some articles and some blogs, and it's just nowhere.
Right.
You can see it's not you. You can just see once you look at it. But from a researching side, and once you've written it, ChatGPT's translation function is brilliant. Because I do a lot of work in Norwegian, and my Norwegian is trash. So I'm told that the translations are very natural, and once they translate from the English versus Google, which just gives you weird, and wonderful things.
And that's an example of something that would be very tedious, right? Without AI, or expensive. You either have to do it yourself or hire somebody to do it.
Yeah.
If AI can just do that for you, then that could really help you scale up your content and produce more faster without cutting any corners.
So the last thing I want to go into is we are now in the middle of the year. We're going into our summer holidays. So we've got a month off, which is great.
Nice.
Oh, yes. What is the rest of the year looking like for you? Have you as a team and as a manager, and I'm just asking this as somebody who's going into I've got a new cohort of students starting as well in August. What is exciting you for the rest of this year? What are you saying to your team is, until December, this is what our focus is?
So we have Underlord and season 6 were just the beginning of what's going to be a really cool year for Descript. For my team, those moments are the most exciting parts of the year, those big releases where we bring new features and changes to Descript that we think are really going to be beneficial to creators. When we bring those to market, that's really fun. It's hard and it's a lot of work. And as you can imagine, any sort of announcement launch moment is, there's deadlines and there's a few late nights in there, but it's worth it because it's so exciting. And we're also just very excited about Descript itself and some of the changes coming both to the front end with more Underlord powers, more cool capabilities right around the corner, and also on the back end of Descript, some of the changes we're going to roll out and have already rolled out with our web app to the media engine. All of this is super exciting and gives us an opportunity to be, we're lucky to work at a place where we get to be really creative with these things. We get to sort of indulge our sense of humor and be weird in ways that I think a lot of other brands would shy away from. The folks who run our company, all sort of, their sensibility leans toward the weird and the surprising, and definitely Andrew, as our CEO, never wants to do anything in a way that would feel boring. And so that creates all sorts of opportunities for us to really let it hang out.
Well, life is never boring, and obviously with the daily updates, almost having to restart my Descript is never boring. So that's cool.
Try the web app. It works fantastic. It performs great, and you'll never see that restart button. Every time you reload your web browser, it's updated.
Okay. Well, I'll do that then. Look, I mean, it's changing so quickly. So I think in this industry where things are moving so quickly, as the customer, you've got to keep learning. And your job in content creation is obviously to help us with nuggets of information like this to make our experience with your product easier. So, Brandon, thank you so much for your time. It's been very cool. And I just want to say thank you to Descript. I mean, you are a company who engages directly with your customers. You guys didn't have to get on a call with me, and there were two folks who reached out to me. So it's very cool that you're supporting your creators and the community around you. More power
Great
to
to
you.
hear. Well, thank you. It's been fun, and appreciate you having us on, and always happy to come talk about Descript and the work's going on.
Awesome. Cheers, Brandon.
Okay. Take care, Nicholas.